my first idea is like a 2D platformer, but it's going to be more open world than most platformers because that seems to be what's like doing really well in the industry at the moment. Games like Ori and the Blind Forest and Hollow Knight, they're more expansive worlds where you've got a lot less linear progress, which I think is really interesting. And the second one's going to be a 3D fantasy medieval environment with games like The Witcher and Skyrim, because I think it's really interesting to explore the worlds and see what you can actually find within them. And it's nice that there's content in the world that not every player would see, but the game developers are okay with that because it just feels alive to have it there anyway. And the third idea is a horror VR like game environment where it would probably be just a camera like panning through an environment with like horror aspects added into it. So I ended up choosing the platformer idea because I've really been enjoying that genre at the moment, and I think it's really interesting that platforming games are becoming more like open world games. So I chose the idea because I think it'd be really interesting to explore a 2D game because I haven't done much of that before. And the general theme of the game will be a species that lives in like an underground tunnel system, and this will give context to the world because the platformers are usually in like kind of linear paths and tunnels which will actually give context to the environment. And the idea of the game is to like reach the surface, so you like work your way up from the bottom of the like world to the top, and you can find possible like upgrades to your tools or maybe simple like fighting mechanics with enemies that can stop your paths because you need to add difficulty as well as just platforming aspects. To complete the project, I'll need to look into character design, world creation, animation, and then creating a lore for the world because I think it's really important to add context because else your game can seem a bit out of place. I'll also need to do a lot more pre-production and audience profiling because it's really important to target your game. I'll also need to just look at fundamentals of what makes a good 2D game because like I can look at industry examples, what inspires me. Games like Ori and the Blind Forest is a really good example because it became really popular and they're made by like smaller teams and it did really well for itself, which is really inspiring. I can also look at world layout because these games have non-linear paths where you can go different ways to the same place, which is really interesting that they can make it so the player can find their own way around. I also need to research what programs are best to make a game like this because I have some experience with Photoshop and Illustrator and stuff like that, but I need to look at what program would be best to actually put the game together and possibly adding sound effects to it if I have time. Research will impact the decisions I make in the game based on the layout and art style after I find out what target audience would be best for the game. Gameplay mechanics could also come into a part of this, whether I want it to be like a harder game or a more light-hearted game with easier mechanics for everybody to play. I could add dialogue into the game as well, and the nature of that would be influenced again by the audience. The advantages to making this sort of game is, well, I have access to all the relevant programs and it will extend my skill set because I have not much experience in 2D. I also have many sources of inspiration which will help me to do research and look at what I enjoy about them, so that will help me figure out what I want to put in my game. Disadvantages are a strict time deadline because there's going to be setbacks due to me having a lack of knowledge in 2D, and I'm going to help to counter these issues by managing my time well, experimenting a lot with 2D so that I can expand my skill set and make it easier for myself. I'm going to meet the deadline by creating like mock deadlines, so I have to get certain tasks done every week or so then I can like track my progress and make sure I'm on track and then leave time at the end so I can make upgrades, or it'll give me time where if there are setbacks that I haven't like foreseen that I can like counter them. And for feedback I'll be creating surveys and questionnaires that I can have people play test certain areas of the game, and then they can give me feedback on what they thought about that bit, and then I can improve on it or keep it the same based on the results. And then I'll also do that at the end with the full product and like an overview of the whole product. Yeah, that's about it. Any questions? Yeah.
What made you prefer to platform in a 3D environment?
I've just been playing a lot of that genre recently, and I think it's really interesting that the fundamentals of it have almost changed from like a linear progression to a more open world style, because I really enjoyed 3D games that were open world, and then I explored this genre and I found it was really like interesting to be able to have an open world game that's 2D. Yeah.
What do you think will be the biggest challenge for making that game?
Definitely like adding all of the detail that these games have with all the background, like the backdrops and all the animation, because I'm not very experienced in that. So I think just creating the background images that are so detailed itself is really difficult to do, especially when you've got a lot of different areas that are going to require different images. Yeah.
Being effective, some platformers have 3D thrown into it. Will yours incorporate some 3D elements or not?
No, I was just going to have it be a 2D one. I know some games do that, but I think that'd be quite difficult for me to do with the time restraint, so I'm just going to keep it solely a 2D game.
You mentioned dialogues. Were you thinking more like speechable and text, or would you get voice actors?
I prefer it in these games where it's more just dialogue and like NPC interaction, where you can understand the world by talking to people rather than it just having like a narrator tell you what's going on. I think it's fun to explore and understand what's going on for yourself.
So the question for me is, what research areas specifically have you identified that you really need to look more into for your open world 2D platform?
Definitely just the fundamentals of a 2D game, like animations, sounds, world layout, all of that. Adding mechanics to it, because I've never done anything like that before. Obviously you've got to be able to like move your character, and if I wanted to add combat possibly to do that, then yeah, just animation's a big one, I think.
Okay. Any more questions? Thank you, Ben. Excellent. Right.